To see you. Now to the latest in Iraq. Islamic militants capturing a northern Iraqi town today, striking another blow to the nation's Shiite-led government. Meanwhile, Iraqi militants claim to have carried out a mass execution of Iraqi soldiers. Here on set to share his insights onto how the U.S. should be responding, Congressman Ed Royce, a Republican from California and the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee. Thanks for joining us,
Good morning.
On set. Drones. You would like to see targeted drone attacks in Iraq?
This has been a request now that the Iraqi government has been making because you have these columns of this Al-Qaeda offshoot, you know, waving the black flag of Al-Qaeda, moving across town by town, picking up more and more wealth. They hit the central bank, took about $450 million when they took Mosul. This makes it the richest terrorist organization in the world. Clearly, if we had responded to the request and given the air power through drone strikes, this would have helped check this advance on the ground.
Drone strikes, what about boots on the ground? Or
well, I don't think anyone wants to see boots on the ground. But that's not what's required here. What is lacking on the part of the Iraqi forces is air support. And that can be given by drone strikes or tomahawks. And frankly, it's been about 4 months now since they were encamped in western Iraq and since they began their long march city by city. And so this is what's baffling. Why don't we hit them?
Well, the president has said he is reviewing all options, presumably including this one. What do you think is the likelihood that the U.S. takes this kind of action with airstrikes?
I've talked to the vice president about this, to the national security advisor. For some weeks now, this has been in abeyance, and we don't have a lot of time here. Because, you know, as the situation becomes more dire on the ground, it also brings in Iran into the equation. Right. So it would behoove us to have moved quickly, and we should move now in order to give that air support.
You're promising the nation surgical strikes, which you've done through history, and they've proved not to be that surgical. We heard from the former director of the CIA, Jim Woolsey, about half an hour ago. And he was explaining to us how technically it's actually quite difficult, depending on where those forces are, to strike them without massive collateral damage. Are you prepared to inflict massive collateral damage in this war and further enrage the situation?
Well, think about it. When you've got an army encamped, as they were, or when you have columns on the road, it is possible to hit those columns.
But now they're moving through towns. You said it yourself.
Well, yes, now that we've waited 4 months, it's become more difficult. But the fact is that if we wanted to stiffen the backbone of the Iraqi forces, they're a more secular force. They obviously behave like other armies do when they face Al-Qaeda. But they tend to run away. They need some kind of air support. The easiest way to do it is with drones. There's other options, tomahawks and so forth, as I've said. But at the end of the day, the longer you wait, the more equipment they get, the more money they loot, the larger the force.
On the ground there,
Pardon?
What would we be leaving? Even if these drone attacks can protect Baghdad, the current government, it's hugely separatist. The Kurdistan is separatist.
Right.
It is going to be a trap. It has been before.
Sure, you got to keep your eye on the main problem. The main problem's Al-Qaeda. The main problem's Benghazi. This is a guy who said when he was let out of prison to American forces, he said, "I'll see you guys in the future in New York." You know, this is a fellow who has now massacred maybe 1,700 people. You've got crucifixions going on. You know, you've got mass
you've got
atrocities.
The rise of radical Islam around. I mean, it's in North Africa too. Look at what's going on even in Kenya today, or whether it's Niger, or I mean, so many of these countries. We're fighting this battle on a lot of fronts, it would seem. In the case of Iraq, we conceivably would be doing it with a government that we don't really support, that has not been inclusive in any way and created this problem that it's facing on its own.
But you've got to admit, the longer we wait in terms of taking decisive action, the more assets they get under their control, the more casualties they inflict, and the more they ignite this sectarian violence. If we'd moved decisively, quickly, we could have provided the air support for the Iraqi military.
I understand what the GOP has to do here. It has to show that Obama is asleep at the wheel, because that's much more powerful to you than even Benghazi. I get what's going on. But at the same time, do you not understand?
I don't agree with you on that.
Well, then let's disagree.
Yeah.
The point that I was going to go on and make is actually there may be no appetite in this country for further conflict or for being drawn in any way. The blood and the treasure is over. There is no more to give away now.
Simon, seriously, we are talking about an al-Qaeda affiliate here. You can't wait until this individual establishes a caliphate. He is going to target the U.S., he is going to target Jordan, he's going to target other countries in the region. It makes no sense not to use drones to knock this guy back.
Is this country going to have to be a permanent state of on-off war through the Middle East, or with the Taliban in Afghanistan, with the... I mean, does it go on forever?
I will tell you that as long as al-Qaeda is out there, somebody had better be minding the business of keeping them in check. Because if you don't, you end up with another 9/11. That is just the reality of the situation we face.
All right. Thanks for the warning. Good to see you,
Thank
Congressman, here in New York. That is Congressman Ed Royce joining us here at Post 9.
Okay, let's send it over to